Parles-tu français? Hablas español? Parli italiano? If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Wondery. Spelled BABBEL.com/Wondery. Rules and restrictions may apply.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Decision Critical, Concierge Nursing. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
And Mr. Toby Tomplake. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. We're going to head to Oxford, talk to Michael Katz at the bottom of this hour. Covers Ole Miss. If you haven't been here all week, we've taken time to chat about each of the SEC teams playing games in the first round. Monday, we took a look at Alabama. Tuesday, Oklahoma. Wednesday, Texas A&M. Today, we'll take a look at Ole Miss. As 4 SEC teams will play this weekend in the first round. And then, of course, Georgia is one of those teams with the bye. And it will be fascinating to watch how this unfolds this weekend because, remember, a year ago, all 4 teams that had the bye lost their quarterfinal matchup. Now, part of that was just the absurdity of how it was seeded, where you had Arizona State and Boise State with byes, which was just ridiculous. But, and so, I mean, that's in part why you had the 4 teams lose. But, Ohio State beating Oregon last year, Notre Dame upsetting Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, I think there is some question about the legitimacy of that. Is it really a benefit having the time off? If it was 1 week off, it'd be something. But when you're talking about Georgia, for example, playing the SEC championship game, and then you're not playing for nearly 4 weeks. 3.5, almost 4 weeks. Is that really a benefit? There's a real question about that. And I guess we'll start to build more of a sample size to learn that. Meanwhile, LSU is preparing for the Texas Bowl. Frank Wilson earlier today tweeted out a photo of he and Lane Kiffin observing practice today out on the Ponderosa. Today was practice number 6 for the Tigers. They'll practice again tomorrow, which will be number 7. And then next week before Christmas, and then they'll head out to Houston for the Texas Bowl, the game a week from Saturday. We always say it's the real benefit of playing in a bowl game is having the opportunity to have all of these extra practices. And now specifically with Lane Kiffin, coming in, being here now, we can watch these guys practice and get even more of a sample of these guys. It's interesting that photo that Frank Wilson tweeted, part of the caption was #AllLove. And there's been this conversation about Lane Kiffin and Frank Wilson. And obviously, listen, we've been talking about this here for weeks, and from the time Lane Kiffin was hired, I've really stumped for Frank Wilson returning for all the reasons many of you have as well. But it was very clear very early that they weren't going to have a spot for him on staff. As I understand it, they did offer Frank Wilson an opportunity to stay on staff, but in a reduced role, an off-field role, which naturally he wasn't going to accept. And I don't blame him at all. And you're talking about a guy with a tremendous amount of experience, who's a running backs coach, associate head coach, making $1 million a year. You took on the interim head coach role here over the last month, and then was going to go be an analyst. I don't blame him one lick for saying no to that. And he's got a great opportunity at a place like Ole Miss, a place he coached before, a place in the SEC, not far from home, and working with guys he's familiar with. Pete Golding is the head coach now at Ole Miss, and Frank hired Pete Golding at UTSA as his defensive coordinator. So they've worked together before. Of course, Austin Thomas is there now as the general manager. Kelvin Bolden, who was here for the last 5 months, is back at Ole Miss, as you well know. And a lot of those players as well are guys that Frank has recruited. You cross paths a lot on the recruiting trails. A lot of crossover there in who you're recruiting. So there's a lot of synergies that make sense. And I would tell you, having some conversations with folks around the Ole Miss program, I don't think this is going to be surprising to you, but I'm going to verbalize it. I don't think this is one of those things where, there's this emotional response from Ole Miss after Lane Kiffin leaves, and then time goes on and it settles a little bit. I think the exposed nerve endings, the manner in which this happened, was very embarrassing for a lot of people at Ole Miss. I'm talking about administrators, because a lot of them legitimately believed that Lane Kiffin was torn and might return. And as we've talked about here for 6-8 weeks, that was never the case. I mean, I knew it. There's a lot of people who hire, fire, and write checks, as I often say, who knew it. But some of the decision makers there didn't get it. They believed that he was legitimate and might actually return, which he was never going to do. And it left them in a bad spot. It was very embarrassing. And I think as a result, there's a lot of people over there who aren't just going to let this thing settle. I think there are people at Ole Miss who want to embarrass Lane Kiffin as much as they want to win. And so I think you are going to see, did you see the story today? We did it around the SEC, but there's 4 players, key Ole Miss players, who today announced that they have signed deals to return. This was ESPN had the report, but Centarian Perkins, who's the only 5-star that signed with Ole Miss during Lane Kiffin's tenure, defensive tackle Will Eccles, center Bryson Sanders, and then defensive back Antonio Kite. 4 key players. And from an Ole Miss perspective, you might be looking at this going, man, those might have been guys that Kiffin at LSU would have targeted had they gone to the portal to bring him to Baton Rouge. And instead now they've signed on to stay at Ole Miss. And I have no doubt part of that is they like Ole Miss and they like their teammates and they like Pete Golding, and there's a lot of that. But as I understand it, there are people at Ole Miss that are willing to make the financial contributions necessary to do things that make Lane Kiffin's job at LSU more difficult and very uncomfortable. What I mean is, you're sitting there as most likely an LSU fan today thinking, okay, well, they hired Austin Thomas and Frank Wilson and Pete Goldings from Hammond, and Kelvin Bolden was here the last 5 months. And, man, they got a lot of guys with inroads into Louisiana. And I'm here to tell you, I think they're going to go target top guys in the state and overpay them to try to get them out of Louisiana to Ole Miss to try to embarrass Lane Kiffin. Even if it means over-leveraging themselves for some individual players. just to try to prove a point and make things uncomfortable. And maybe also to try to drive up prices for LSU. I mean, just think about what just happened with Charlie Weiss. I mean, LSU's paying Charlie Weiss $2 million a year. He starts to get a little bit of cold feet. Boom, here's $2.5 million a year. He goes from $6 to $7.5 million over his 3-year contract. LSU had to go back to the well and get an extra $500,000 a year for the offensive coordinator. I think situations like that are going to replicate over and over and over again coming up. Just file that away. I think you're going to see Ole Miss target current LSU players to try to get them to Oxford. I think you're going to see Ole Miss very intentionally target top Louisiana talent and overpay them to try to get them to Oxford, as much to embarrass Lane Kiffin as it would be to help them win. It's just every conversation I have with folks over there, it just continues to reveal itself more and more that they are embarrassed, they are angry, they are not letting it go away. So it will be interesting to watch what happens here on January 2nd when the portal window opens, and when Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock, with all the work that they've done evaluating this roster and the portal and everything that's out there, what they're able to do to build the 2026 roster. And ultimately, that's what it's all going to come down to. Because if Ole Miss signs a kid out of Louisiana, but Ole Miss goes 7-5 and LSU's 10-2 next year and in the playoff, nobody's going to care that Ole Miss signed the kid from Louisiana. I mean, it's ultimately going to come down to the results on the field. And that's what LSU's working toward right now. But file that away. We had this convo. I expect that Ole Miss is going to be very, very aggressive, intentionally trying to sign LSU players out of the portal and targeting Louisiana kids in the high school ranks, top Louisiana kids in the high school ranks. All right, it's after further review. Glad you're with us here. We are brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Maybe you want a big old ton of acreage for your reindeer. Look, they need room to run. They need to practice flying. You know, I would say you could buy that acreage up at the North Pole, but First South Farm Credit can only help you buy land in the contiguous 48. But maybe if your reindeer want a little break from the snow so they can train and run and fly where it's a little warmer, anywhere in the lower 48, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit, because they've been doing that better than anyone else for more than 100 years, since 1916. It's First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. All right, y'all, it's AFR. Thanks for being here with us on this Thursday. I got one more day after this. I'm going to take a couple weeks off, as I always do, around Christmas and New Year's. We get a bunch of vacation days anyway, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So I'll just take off 2 weeks and get out of here, recharge the batteries, come back after the New Year. So looking forward to that. But still, business at hand for the rest of today and tomorrow. Mike Triplett's here next hour. We will get to Michael Katz in about 15 minutes from right now. We'll preview Ole Miss and Tulane. Lee Sterling's here later this hour with his best bets. So a ton to do. The Saints injury report is out. We'll update that for you. And I do want to give a hat tip to Mansoor Delane, who achieved something extremely rare in LSU football history. We'll do that next on AFR.
AFR.
All right, we're counting down the shopping days you have left. So Christmas is a week from today, which means you have 6 shopping days left, if you count Christmas Eve. You have 6 shopping days left. If you have not yet gotten that gift yet for the really hard to buy for person on your list, or you just want something fun and creative instead of giving the same thing over and over again, get by Clegg's Nursery. They got so many great gift options. You can start with a very popular Clegg's gift card. That's always a great option. Let them pick what they want. They have so many gorgeous accent pieces for your exterior spaces. Tuned wind chimes are a great gift. If you've never seen these, they have a beautiful selection. They're beautiful, first of all. These wooden wind chimes are gorgeous. They'll match your outdoor decor. And then obviously they're tuned, so when they clang, they play a song. It's beautiful. Bird feeders, hummingbird feeders, so many options. Check them out today at Clegg's Nursery.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona. Presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalvr.com.
Saints-Jets official injury report is out. Thanks to Ross Jackson, who was with us in hour number one, went through some of this, and some of this would be expected, but it's not good for New Orleans. It is a long and distinguished injury list for the Saints as they get prepared to take on the Jets Sunday in the Dome for the final home game. But here's all the DNPs, and there were 6 of them. Alvin Kamara, Asim Richards, Cesar Ruiz, Devon Vele, Devon Gotcha, Mason Tipton. So 6 DNPs. For what it's worth, Gotcha was his veteran rest day, which he's had all year. He gets off Thursday just as a veteran rest day. And then Tipton was out with an injury. With an illness. That was his designation. So you would assume Tipton would get healthy and get over this illness and get back in time to play on Sunday, be ready to go. But obviously what's the most concerning here are the Alvin Kamara, Devon Vele, who we know is not going to play this week, and then Cesar Ruiz and Asim Richards. If they're both out this week, then that's the right side of your offensive line. Now, Fuaga returned last week, but Richards has been a valuable depth piece for you. The good news is that Justin Reed was a full participant. So he was limited on Wednesday, full participant here on Thursday. So that means your starting safety, Justin Reed, will be back this week for the New Orleans Saints, or should be back. He's a full participant by Thursday. You'd expect him to be out there. So, Reed, along with Jonas Sanker, and getting the young safeties a lot of experience this year, I think has been certainly valuable. But you'd love to have Justin Reed back. So he's back this week. And then Nathan Shepard was limited with an ankle and knee designation for the second consecutive day. Tyler Shuck is on the injury list with a hip injury, but he's been a full participant each of the 2 days this week. So no limitations there for Shuck, but he is notably on the list. As for the Jets, their list is very long, not quite as many DNPs, but Kiko Mawioga with a neck injury, their linebacker. Mason Taylor with a neck injury, who we know is not going to play this week. And then Eric Watts, defensive lineman, he's out with a concussion. So those are the 3 important designations there. Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, both limited. Everybody else that's listed was full. Most notably was Breece Hall. We're going to see Brady Cook this week for the Jets in New Orleans against the Saints. And Brady Cook did meet with reporters this week. And they do have A.D. Mitchell, their former Texas Longhorn, a wide receiver, A.D. Mitchell, and and Georgia Bulldog, right? So Cook talked about that chemistry there with he and Mitchell.
It's growing. He works really, really hard. And I would just say I've been impressed by just how he's supported me and how he's constantly in my ear, since that Miami game. We watch film together. We're always getting extra rep together, and it's something he loves to do. He wants to do. It's not like I'm dragging him along to go do extra. He's right there with me, and the chemistry's building.
Cook will be an interesting one to watch here as the Jets are trying to figure out what they have there in Brady Cook. Played at Missouri, who obviously we got to see there during his time at Mizzou, but again, a rookie that's going through a lot of the same growing pains right now as Tyler Shuck and the rest of the rookies are. It's just the second game that we've seen Cook play. He played against Miami in relief and then started last week against Jacksonville in the 48-20 loss, and it was ugly. I mean, so far through 2 games, he's got 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions. You get Justin Reed back for the New Orleans Saints, and a struggling Jets team in offense and a defense that traded off its best players. It's just very bad in New York with the Jets, obviously. So it's a game where the Saints are favored. That line keeps growing. We'll see if the Saints can go continue to build on the good vibes they have, but they'll have to do it with a few of their key players down on the offensive side of the ball. All right, it is After Further Review. We're glad you're with us. Love telling you about Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. Talk about Mansoor Delane here in just a second. But remember, over at Shaw Bills, Christmas is just about here. If you're hitting the road, my parents are actually be driving to Kansas to go spend Christmas with my sister and her family, and then they're driving to South Bend after that to see my brother and his family in Indiana. So they're going to be putting a lot of miles on the vehicle. If that's you, make sure before you hit the road, make sure your vehicle is in tip-top shape. Bring it to Shawbills. They'll treat you like family. Name brand tires at wholesale prices. And yes, they'll treat you like family. If it's oil changes, if it's new tires, it is total car care over at Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, where they have Charlie's Dozen, which includes the price match guarantee. Buy tires at Shawbills. Find them advertised cheaper somewhere else. They'll refund you 125% of the difference. Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. ShawBillsTire.com. It's Shawbills, where we keep you rolling. Hey, congratulations to Mansoor Delane. Today, he was named a first-team All-American by the Football Writers Association of America. That means of the 5 recognized All-America teams, he was a first-team All-American on all 5. That's AP, Walter Camp, Sporting News, American Football Coaches Association, and the Football Writers Association of America. Delane is now one of 13 players in LSU football history to earn unanimous All-American honors. That is no small feat. Like, just for context, LSU has been playing football since 1893. Like, you know that. You don't need a history lesson. But to be a unanimous All-American, all 5 of those organizations have to vote you a first-team All-American. So Billy Cannon did it twice, in 1958 and 1959. He was a unanimous All-American twice. So Delane now is the 13th player, but the 14th season that that LSU's had a unanimous All-American, because Cannon did it twice. So, like, here's your list. Gaynell Tinsley in 1936, Billy Cannon in 58 and 59, Roy Winston in 61, Jerry Stovall in 62. It didn't happen again until Nacho Albergamo did it in 87. Another 20 years passed before Glenn Dorsey was a unanimous All-American. Then Pat Pete and Mo Claiborne did it in back-to-back years, 2010, 2011. Then Grant Delpit in 2018 was a unanimous All-American, although he didn't win the Thorpe that year, which is ridiculous. And then in 2019, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were unanimous All-Americans. And then Malik Neighbors was a unanimous All-American in 2023 when he didn't win the Blitnikoff. You mean those awards are popularity contests? Yes, they are, largely. But all that to say, like, I didn't mention Tyrann Mathieu. I didn't mention Jaden Daniels. There's some amazing players in the history of LSU football, All-American players that were not unanimous All-Americans. So, although it was just one little glimmer of Mansoor Delane, one season, and a 7-5 season at that, like, you just watched one of the greatest individual seasons, quite literally, in the history of LSU football. In this DBU era of the last 25 years, Mansoor Delane just put himself alongside Grant Delpit, Patrick Peterson, and Morris Claiborne as the only DBs in this era to earn unanimous All-American honors. I mean, just a magnificent season. I saw Hunt Palmer share this over at LouisianaSports.net in one of the pieces he wrote about Delane. Mansoor Delane allowed 2 first downs all year. Like, the absurdity of 2 first downs all year. Eventually, you'd think, I'll have a bad game and it's just a matchup and another guy goes off a little bit, has some success. 2 first downs all year. Incredible. What a year for Mansoor Delane. Congrats. The 13th player in LSU football history to earn unanimous All-American honors. Okay, y'all, it is AFR. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing all over the state of Louisiana. It's not just healthcare. It's healthcare for your lifestyle. Blaise Rivette and her team are awesome, expertly trained nurses that will come to you, your home, your office, for whatever you may need. From bringing home the baby to end-of-life care and everything in between, dealing with a difficult diagnosis. Maybe you need therapeutic phlebotomy. Maybe it's IV hydration. Maybe it's blood labs like we had to do with Drew. They came to our house to do the blood draws. They can do all of it. It's decisioncriticalbr.com, decisioncriticalbr.com. Okay, quick break, y'all. Come back. We'll head to Oxford. Michael Katz covers the Rebs. We'll preview Ole Miss and Tulane. How are they dealing with the distraction? How about the LSU assistants that are helping out Ole Miss? How are they doing? We'll talk about it next on AFR.
AFR.
I love sharing this feature with you at the Duplessis Builders website. If you haven't checked it out yet, I want you to do it now. Even if you're not in the market for a pool, it's a cool thing to go check out. Go to duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. One more time, duplessisbuilders.net. And when you go to the website, there's a Pick Your Pool tab right there. Click that. And I'd say this all the time. Like, there's 11 designs that they have, starting under $50,000, by the way. And financing is available. You can pick your pool, whichever design that you like. You just pick one. And then when you pick the design that you like, it says customize your pool. And then you can go there and pick all of the finishes that you like. The coping, the porcelain tile, the courtscape, the plaster. Do you want a water wall? Do you want a spray deck? All the different things. You can choose your finishes for that pool and then boom, pay for it, finance it, all right there at the website. It's duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks in. We used last week like a mock bye week with the focus on Tulane, and then came back, brought them back Sunday and a walkthrough Monday, and then had full pads yesterday, go shells today. We're practicing when the game time would be. So normally we're a little earlier a.m. We've kind of moved it back a little bit, and then we'll have a walkthrough tomorrow and fast Friday and get ready to go. So kids have been locked in, focused. Preparation's been pretty good up to this point.
It's Ole Miss head coach Pete Golding. Michael Katz covers the Rebs for the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. So on Twitter at Michael L. Katz. You want to give him a follow. Good enough to join us now. Talk some Rebs and Green Wave. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to be honest. Hearing Ole Miss head coach Pete Golding still sounds a little weird.
Got to try it on, man. Just got to keep trying it on and get used to looking at it in the mirror a little bit. Have things settled at all up there?
Yeah, I think that, obviously that the weekend after the Egg Bowl was probably the most insane few days in my professional career, just seeing how that all went down. But I think that now that the dust has settled and they're actually the football is actually going to be played, I think things have settled down to an extent for sure.
I think one of the big question marks people are going to have around here are the assistants that are going to work for LSU that are coaching Ole Miss in this bowl game and how that's gone. So to whatever extent you can, what can you tell us?
Yeah, so we got some assistance this week, which is I think is a CFP mandate, but we did not get Charlie Weiss Jr. So I don't know what if that was a choice. I'm not sure what the decision was there, and I understand it obviously. He's on his way out, but I do think that a whole part of this, if we're backing up a little bit, like Lane Kiffin was very vocal about how he was upset that he didn't get to coach this team in the playoff, and players were on social media and saying, hey. You were saying that we were begging you to stay. That's not really the case. I feel like with the assistants, it's different because, they're making choices for their families and their professional livelihoods, and I don't think anybody blames them for making the choices that they made. So I think that with Pete Golding kind of being the glue here, I've always felt like all he cares about is doing what's best for the team, and what's best for the team is to have Charlie Weiss calling plays right now, and to have all of those, as many of those pieces as possible still there. Because, listen, they've been doing this a certain way all year, and it's gotten them to this point. I think the last thing you want to do is to try and reinvent the wheel in December, right before the biggest game in the history of your program. So I think that keeping things as normal and as consistent as possible was Pete's goal, and I know that from our perspective, it probably looks a little weird with, you know, 1 foot out the door, and, you know, Charlie Weis obviously is, you know, he's got LSU to think about too. But at the same time, I think that everybody right now in the Manning Center is pretty locked in on getting through this playoff run, and whatever happens after that, it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty common occurrence. I think roughly half the teams in the college football playoff have a head coach or an assistant that's coaching in the playoff that's going to be at another place in a few weeks. It's just
crazy.
It's just the reality of the calendar being what it is. I'm glad you brought up the roster because there was the report about, you know, the players' council or leadership, whatever, voting 9-3 for Lane to stay, and there's been these reports like, is the roster fragmented? Like, I mean, you could talk to players and all leading up. As best you can tell, how is the roster handling the transition here?
I think that, you know, it was really interesting because when I talked to Ole Miss Athletic Director Keith Carter a couple weeks ago about, you know, we just kind of we just want to talk about how the whole situation went down, and basically what he told me was like, when the second Billy Napier got fired at Florida was when Ole Miss had to start thinking about, are we going to have a new coach? Because that's just, you knew the second that happened, it was going to start, someone's going to start sniffing around. There are going to be rumors. And of course, obviously the next week is when Brian Kelly got fired, and then it really heated up. So, you know, I know that from you know, I talked about those crazy few days and few weeks. It's really been a couple of months that this has kind of been brewing, and, you know, non-answers from Lane, and, you know, that's his prerogative to handle it the way that he does. He's always done that to his credit. This is not like the first time he's ever declined to talk about it. But I think that, you know, Ole Miss is in the middle of this, you know, incredible season. The first 11-win regular season in the history of this program is in the playoff. And just for so much of the season, nobody was talking about the team. And, you know, that's my fault. That's me. I mean, that's because the story was, you know, what's Lane Kiffin going to do? And I think that towards the end, that probably got a little bit frustrating. And especially the way, you know, it's come up a lot. You know, his Lane's family taking trips to the prospective places in a very public manner. I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And then also, you know, to just not really be telling the players what's going on. I think that by the end of it, by that Sunday, the 30th, when Lane officially took the LSU job and Pete was elevated, more than anything, I kind of, the sense I got was a sense of relief. Like, okay, it's finally over. We know who our coach is. Now we can just worry about football.
So you get that sense, though, here leading up to the playoff game against Tulane, that the guys that are there seemingly bought in, trying to be free of distraction.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of, you know, who's going to follow to LSU, and or if anybody, you know, there's you know, that's always a topic, and that's just college football now. But I would say that I think everybody right now is bought in on this playoff team, and really probably isn't thinking too much about 2026 quite yet.
Let's talk about the playoff game that's going to take place on Saturday. Michael Katz is with us. Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal covers Ole Miss. It's a game we already saw where Ole Miss just wiped the floor with Tulane. You know what they say, it's hard to beat a team twice. But any reason to believe that this outing might be different than the first one?
I mean, I'm never going to predict another 35-point blowout. I mean, that game was just, I think Jake Retzlaff completed his first pass with like 1 minute left in the second half, or in the first half. I mean, it was just absolutely stunning what Ole Miss kind of did to them. But I just think that personnel-wise, I don't think Tulane can really match up. We've seen it, and even if it isn't a 35-point gap, it's hard for me to see Tulane in 3 months getting that much better, because Ole Miss has gotten better too. And yeah, Jake Retzlaff had one of the worst games of his life, but that was also against an Ole Miss defense that has gotten a lot better. And you know, Tulane's defense is really bad against the pass, which is kind of stunning. I think they're like 121 or 122 nationally in passing yards per game allowed, and Trinidad Chambliss in his second FBS start kind of lit him up. So, you know, he's gotten better. So, I feel like, yes, Tulane, are you going to hold them to 10 again? Probably not. I feel like they're probably going to have a little bit more success just because it would be hard for them not to. Just because they had some fourth downs didn't go their way, and that really sort of shifted the game. So assuming those things even out a little bit, I think the game's probably a little bit closer. But I just think when you're looking at the teams, again, even if it's not a 35-point gap, I saw this 3 months ago, and there was no question Ole Miss was a lot better, and I still think that they are the better team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because obviously if Ole Miss wins this game, they'll go on to play Georgia. It'll be 2 rematches of games we already saw this year. Is there you mentioned that first game, which was Chambliss' second. Aside from him just playing more football, are there any other differences roster-wise, like key position changes, personnel injuries, anything like that?
This is probably like, you take it with a grain of salt with injury reports and stuff, but they're pretty healthy right now. I think that they feel pretty good. They've got their best cornerback, Antonio Kite. It sounds like he is probably going to be good to go, which is big. A big one that has really helped sort of change the trajectory of the defense was Prince Will Umanmielen. He was not healthy for the first part of the season, and it showed, and they could not get after quarterbacks. But since he's gotten healthy, he has been on fire. He's got 6.5 sacks this year, and most of those coming over the last half the season. So I don't remember him really doing much against Tulane. I don't think Ole Miss had a sack against Tulane in that game. So I think that he is probably a piece that is going to look different than last time. And I think maybe looking up at the defensive front, Will Eccles is the guy who has gotten a lot better as the season's gone on. I think offensively, Trinidad Chambliss is obviously more comfortable with the offense. He had an incredible year. But, we've already seen him star against Tulane. Offensively, I don't see too many differences. The only other one maybe would be Deshaun Stribling, the wide receiver. He kind of got a slow start to the season, but he's really come on about the last month or so, just adding to that wide receiver depth. So I think the bigger ones will probably be defensively, personnel-wise, if nothing else, just because those guys were young against Tulane the first time and maybe not as healthy.
Football will be a welcome distraction, I'm sure, in Northeast Mississippi coming up on Saturday. It'll be the Rebs and the Green Wave for the second time this year. As Michael Katz will be there, Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. We appreciate it, man. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm it. Be well. It is After Further Review. We'll knock out a quick break. Lee Sterling joins us next to give his bets for the weekend. Stick around.
AFR.
Love telling you every single day about Glow Resources because I love telling you about an awesome business. It's a local business. It's a growing business. It's already a big business. That's Glow Resources. On the Baton Rouge Business Report, top 100 local businesses list, top 100 privately owned businesses this year, and continuing to climb that list every single year because Glow Resources just keeps growing and expanding. Listen, home base is Baton Rouge. I know I say this often, but home base is Baton Rouge. They got New Orleans office as well, but also Miami and Orlando and in Texas and in Mississippi. They're everywhere. And they can serve businesses that are everywhere. So even if you're listening to us or watching us online somewhere outside of Baton Rouge or outside of Louisiana, and you want your business to grow by having the right people, Glow can help. GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. They will cast their net far and wide. They conduct more than 15,000 interviews over the course of the year to find the right people. glowresources.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
Place your bets, gentlemen.
It's time to head to the window.
Don't gamble it all in one place.
This is Lee Sterling's Best Bets, brought to you by Paramount Sports.
Wrapping up hour number 2. Hey, Lee, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to spending some time with the family over the next couple of weeks. So, going to also have a birthday. So,
nice.
We'll see how much I can eat in about a 2.5-hour period.
And we'll be wagering on all the sports as well. It's a great way to enjoy the holiday time as well. There's a bevy of bowl games that I want to talk about. But last time we'll have a chance to chat with you until just before the Super Bowl. So let's check off some of these bigger games, at least on the marquee. Texas, right. Michigan, teams that maybe had playoff aspirations before the season, both come up short, but they'll meet here in the postseason. Texas, a big favorite here, man. 7.5. That number looks big. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't get it. Here's the thing about bowl games. If you have any inclination to bet an underdog, put at least a quarter to a third of your wager on the money line.
Okay.
Unlike the regular season, you're going to see double-digit underdogs win the game outright, left and right. It happens all the time. So in this game, this line would be like 3.5 if Texas didn't blow out Texas A&M, and Michigan went down, honestly, rather meekly against Ohio State. But Ohio State, that was their Super Bowl. I also found out now it looks like Texas could have 6 or 7 guys opting out on their defense and not playing in the bowl game. I think this game reminds me of Michigan's bowl game last year against Alabama. I think they pulled the upset here. Wrong team favorite. Give me Michigan 28-24.
Love it. LSU is going to head over to Houston to take on the Cougs, where U of H is a 3-point favorite. LSU is going to have everybody participate. Man, that offense has been bad. Tigers got a chance to go over there and get it done?
I think so. I was really surprised. I think, like most people were, that a lot of guys were thought they'd opt out, and guys leave. But even the guys that potentially could be leaving wanted to stay and play. So I like that. And the guys that are going to stay, they're going to want to show out for Lane Kiffin. So I think there's a talent level difference. Now, sometimes you play a bowl game, and these first couple games have been played like Old Dominion. They pull the upset. You're going to see those kind of upsets take place, but there's a huge talent level difference here between these two teams. Unless LSU turns the ball over a minimum 2 or 3 times, I think Houston's in trouble. I like LSU, another wrong team favorite. LSU 28-20.
Love to see that. See if the Tigers can finish strong for Frank Wilson. A couple of playoff games I want to ask about. It's a giant number with Ole Miss and Tulane. It's interestingly because we already saw this earlier this year, and Ole Miss beat them by 35 points. Why wouldn't history just repeat itself with these two teams again?
Well, because games never play out the same way. I don't think I've ever seen a game play out the same exact. Could Ole Miss win the game big? Yes, but I would be shocked. Here's a couple reasons why. Ole Miss scored nearly half their points, 22 in the fourth quarter. You have extra time to scheme up for a game. I think John Summerall is going to come up with some different looks, and I think they could end up giving this Ole Miss, offense some trouble. Also, Ole Miss, you got the quarterback saying, he might be hitting the transfer portal. I think that with Trinidad Chambliss talking about something like that, that could be a distraction here. Also, the fact that Jake Retzlaff in the first game, he had been there basically about a month, and it was his worst game by far. He was 5 for 17. I remember watching that game. He's played against the best, playing at BYU, and I think he's going to be up for the challenge here. Also think they're going to slow down the pace here. They want to make this 7, 8, 9 possession game instead of 12, 13, 14 possessions. I think Ole Miss wins 31-23. It's not going to be easy.
Okay, closer game there. At line 17.5, big number. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com, ParamountSports.com. The line is moved on Bama, Oklahoma. It's now Oklahoma 1.5. What do the sharps know that we don't?
Well, I think I told people that, on a lot of these shows in years, that Georgia's going to just absolutely dominate Alabama, and that was the case. I think that Oklahoma has some edges here, and maybe more than people realize. It's not a fluke that their defense dominated them. Offensive line pass protection for Alabama. I know they're having a couple guys come back, but they've allowed 10 sacks over the last 3 games. Ty Simpson, with that bad back, has not been the same quarterback here. So you got the team with the better defense playing at home, and obviously the better special teams. I mean, Tate Sandell, this kid, he's money inside 65 yards in Alabama. It seems like every other kick is errant. So I like OU here. Last year, all 4 favorites won. I think this one is going to be tight, but I like Oklahoma here, 24-20.
All right, Oklahoma, that would be the 3rd in 2 years over the Crimson Tide. And then what about your squad? The Canes going over to Kyle Field, 11 a.m. kick. Aggies are a 3.5-point favorite. A lot of people picking Miami to win this one outright. What say you, Lee?
Yeah, the line started at 6.5. It's down to 2.5. I think some things that favor Miami here is Mario Cristobal has played. in this venue. It was one of his first games when he became the coach in 2022. His quarterback for that game was Tyler Van Dyke. Remember that name? They probably would have been better off, with Dick Van Dyke under center for that game. I mean, I remember that game. I was there. There were so many illegal procedures, delay of games. So this Miami team played in some tough venues. They played at Florida State. Look at Carson Beck. He's played at Tennessee. He's played at Texas. Come out victorious. Last 4 games, 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception here. I think they have the better offensive and defensive line here. Here's the biggest trouble Miami can run into. If they're forced into third and long situations, A&M's defense at home allowing just 14.3% of third down conversions. I don't know if we've ever seen a defense like that at home. So that's what they need to stay out of, third and long. But, I mean, the blueprint's there. South Carolina kept Marcel Reed in the pocket. He could not dissect that defense in the first half, and same with Texas. So they'll be watching a lot of film here. I think it's going to be a great game. Maybe the difference is Miami's plus 9 in turnover.
I got 10 seconds.
A&M -7. Yep. Let's go with Miami outright, 24-23.
Saints-Jets is the game of the week. ParamountSports.com, ParamountSports.com.
Okay.
Thanks, Lee.
Okay, see ya.
ParamountSports.com.
AFR.
As we wrap up hour number 2, remind you about Rouse's. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. The official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Christmas is 1 week away. 1 week away from Christmas. What do you need for Christmas? Need wine? They got it. Bourbon, beer, got it. Drinks for the kiddos, got it. Turkey, ham, brisket, whatever type of meat, whatever protein you're going to be throwing on the grill, cooking in the oven, they got it. Want to let someone else handle it? Rouse's can help you. All your sides, party platters, trays, desserts, Rouse's. Whatever you need, Rouse's.com is the website where you can go hit the weekly ad tab, see all the savings that they have right now. So if you're prepping for that holiday get-together for Christmas Eve dinner, maybe Christmas Day, having the family over, you can go to Rouse's and save and, of course, get the best selection and the best quality, Rouse's.com. With 70 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach and points in between. Rouse's, this feels like home.